Alright, so I only got 15 minutes in each of these videos, guys, so sometimes you get cut off in the middle of analyzing a section. So I'm continuing on, just backtracking a little bit in the section where Mildred has to be brought either to the hospital or these guys come to their house. It's not really quite clear, but there's a couple things to note that are important in this section. So we talked about how technology in this novel is often portrayed with a negative kind of nature imagery. So in this case, it's a snake, but not just any snake. The kind of tube that goes down her throat into her stomach and sucks out all of the sleeping pills is characterized as a black cobra. Okay, it's not just any snake, it's a poisonous, deadly snake. A very, very dangerous creature, right? So it's a black cobra. It's not a gardener snake or something like that. And notice that the workers themselves are characterized as very impersonal. The way that they talk, the way that they behave, they're just smoking their cigarettes. He's like, gotta clean them out both ways. Talking about his wife there, who's nearly dead, in very inhuman, insensitive, emotionless kind of language and behavior. And why? Why are these workers like this? Why are they so dehumanized and uncaring? Well, the worker gives us a little bit of background, what's going on in the society here. How many cases do they get a night of suicide attempts? 9 or 10 cases per night of suicide attempts, which means that the society is totally unhappy and full of darkness. So much so that they even got special machines made. They got so many, he says, starting a few years ago, we had these special machines built with the special lens that goes into the stomach and can see inside the stomach. Well, why did they build these special machines? Well, so many people in society are trying to commit suicide, especially with sleeping pills. And he says all you need is 2 handymen. Okay? So fixing a problem on the surface, like a inanimate object, rather than a human being. They're treating Mildred just like a piece of machinery that they can just fix and then go away. But nothing is being fixed because the issues underneath, the issues of the soul, are not being addressed. The issues of identity and meaning, having some kind of deeper meaning in your life. Well, none of that is addressed by any of this. It's purely mechanical. Let's just pump out the poison and that's it. But they're not pumping out the poison in her soul. The poison, what making her unhappy is her addictive escapism Okay? And the men with the cigarettes in their straight line mouths, the men with the eyes of puff adders, another poisonous animal, took up their load of machine and tube, their case of liquid melancholy, and the slow dark sludge of nameless stuff, and strolled out the door. Montag sat down in the chair and looked at the woman. Her eyes were closed now, gently, and he put out his hand to feel the warmness of breath on his palm. Mildred, he said at last. So, these guys don't send a medical doctor anymore, don't need him from the emergency. So, yeah, I guess it does appear that these are like mobile emergency units that go around to people's houses. You can't even wait for them to bring somebody to the hospital. They don't send doctors anymore, just two handymen. All they got to do is operate this machinery. And there's so many cases that they just had to build this special machine and have these guys go around like that. And what are they described as? Puff adders, a kind of dangerous adder like a viper. And they just load up their stuff and their case of liquid melancholy. That's sadness, sorrow. All that poison they pumped out of her is actually the darkness inside of her, the sadness and the melancholy, the meaninglessness of her life. Mildred, he said at last. There are too many of us, he thought. There are billions of us, and that's too many. Nobody knows anyone. Strangers come and violate you. Strangers come and cut your heart out. Strangers come and take your blood. Good God, who were those men? I never saw them before in my life. Half an hour passed. The bloodstream in this woman was new, and it seemed to have done a new thing to her. Her cheeks were very pink, and her lips were very fresh and full of color, and they looked soft and relaxed. Someone else's blood there. If only someone else's flesh and brain and memory. If only they could have taken her mind along to the dry cleaners and emptied the pockets and steamed and cleansed it and reblocked it and brought it back in the morning. If only. He got up, put back the curtains, opened the windows, wide to let the night air in. It was 2:00 in the morning. Was it only an hour ago Clarisse McClellan in the street and him coming in and the dark room and his foot kicking the little crystal bottle? Only an hour? But the world had melted down and sprung up in a new and colorless form. Laughter blew across the moon-colored lawn from the house of Clarisse and her father and mother and the uncle who smiled so quietly and so earnestly. Above all, their laughter was relaxed and hearty and not forced in any way, coming from the house that was so brightly lit this late at night, while all the other houses were kept to themselves in darkness. Montag heard the voices talking, giving, talking, weaving, reweaving their hypnotic web. So Montag comes home, opens the window finally, and what does he hear? He hears laughter from Clarisse's house. What are they doing? They're up late, talking. They're relaxed and hearty. They have heart. They have humanity. They have socializing going on. They have family. His family is broken. They have togetherness. Montag is totally separate from his wife. She's like a dead person to him. And their house was so brightly lit, while the other houses were kept to themselves in darkness. They kept to themselves. Right? They are separate, not together. Montag moved out through the French windows and crossed the lawn without even thinking of it. He stood outside of the talking house in the shadows, thinking he might even tap on the door and whisper, "Let me come in. I won't say anything. I just want to listen. What is it you're saying?" But instead, he stood there, very cold, his face a mask of ice, listening to a man's voice, the uncle, moving along at an easy pace. "Well, after all, this is the age of disposable tissue. Blow your nose on a person, wad them, flush them away, reach for another, blow, wad, flush. Everyone using everyone else's coattails. How are you supposed to root for the home team when you don't even have a program or know the names? For that matter, what colored jerseys are they wearing as they trot out on the field?" Montag moved back to his own house, left the window wide, checked Mildred, tucked the covers about her carefully, then lay down with the moonlight on his cheekbones and on the frowning ridges in his brow, with the moonlight distilled in each eye to form a silver cataract there. So he goes near their house. What does he overhear? He hears the uncle talking about modern society, the society that they're in. And what's this society like? Uncaring, unloving, unclear. You don't know who's on what team, even in sports. There's no sympathy. People are just using each other. So basically selfish. Everyone's selfish, looking for their self-gain. And the fact that the uncle is making a critique, he's criticizing the society, means he's questioning things, he's thinking. So there's critical thinking going on in Clarisse's home, as opposed to Montag's. One drop of rain, Clarisse. Another drop, Mildred. A third, the uncle. Fourth, the fire tonight. 1 Clarisse, 2 Mildred, 3 uncle, 4 fire, 1 Mildred, 2 Clarisse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clarisse, Mildred, uncle, fire, sleeping tablets, men, disposable tissue, coattails, blow, wad, flush. Clarisse, Mildred, uncle, fire, tablets, tissues, blow, wad, flush. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Rain, the storm, the uncle laughing, thunder falling downstairs, the whole world pouring down, the fire gushing up in a volcano, all rushing on down around in a spouting roar and rivering stream toward morning. "I don't know anything anymore," he said, and let a sleep lozenge dissolve on his tongue. Notice that we're in obviously a third-person limited perspective and sometimes first person for Montag. And here we get a direct replay of Montag's exact thoughts. And if you look at this paragraph, what's going on with his thoughts? They're disjointed. They're unclear. They're jumbled together. He's not thinking clearly. He can barely even think. It's barely coherent. Doesn't make any sense. Even the writing itself becomes kind of confusing and incoherent here. It's all patched together in a strange way, just like his thoughts. He doesn't know anything anymore. Everything has become unstable in his mind. He's starting to question everything about his life, about his happiness. There's a big question mark. Montag's starting to wonder what on earth is going on in this society. Everything is unclear.